that in the Baba Metzia it says that Jews are human beings and non-Jews are behemoths or beasts or something like that. What does it say exactly? But what are the words that are used and what does it mean?
Well, the actual statements.
You have to get closer because it's again your words. Okay.
There are a few different statements, but the actual statement is, you, meaning the Jewish people, are called Adam, are called Adam,
Okay.
and the Ovdei Kochavim, the worshippers of stars, are not called Adam.
Meaning the worshippers of other gods.
So this is the issue. The issue is the phrase in the Talmud is not the word non-Jews. The phrase in the Talmud is those who worship stars. Now that's a technical term that is not necessarily synonymous with non-Jews. It refers primarily to pagans and idol worshippers. Mm-hmm. So one idea that we need to understand is that non-Jews that are monotheistic, non-Jews that are committed to the idea of one God and ethical morality, are not subsumed under that negative connotation. That's one thing to keep in mind. Okay. And even with respect to idolaters and pagans, the Talmud does not say they are subhuman. Not at all. Fact,
what's the word that's used?
It says they are not Adam.
Okay.
I
said not Adam.
Not Adam. So some will interpret that to mean they're not human. But that's not exactly what it says. They're not Adam. And that means the following. Adam, as the creation of God, was given a mission in the world, which he flubbed up by committing his sin. And that mission was to proclaim the glory of God in the universe. So consequently, it stands to reason that the idol worshiper who does not believe in one God is not fulfilling the destiny of Adam. So it's not a judgment of subhumanity. It is simply a judgment that the pagan has failed in the mission that was entrusted to Adam. So this is a possible interpretation. I do understand that one could construe the passage in a very negative way, but I do want to emphasize that when the Bible says man is made in the image of God, that is not limited to the Jewish people. That is a universal statement. And in fact, the very idea of the dignity of all human beings, that all human beings are entitled to respect, has its origin in the Torah itself. So I would hardly understand the Torah and Judaism to denigrate, or the Talmud, which is really, we consider that as holy as the Torah, to denigrate those who are not Jews.
Now, when I went to, in Mea Shearim, I went to another yeshiva, and there were people, mostly students, there was a few people who were older, who did say, yes, they're beasts. Now, why do you think, and I asked them, have you ever met a non-Jew? Because they grew up here, right? And they said no. And I said, well, then how would you know any of this?
Well, let me explain. Although I sharply disassociate myself from that philosophy, I do want to say that historically it is understood. We are a group of people that have been persecuted, tortured, killed, murdered in the Holocaust just less than 100 years ago. And to this very day, there are people who want to wipe us off the face of the earth. So if a Jew has a certain chip on his shoulder and a certain resentment to the non-Jewish world, although I disagree with that philosophically, I can understand it emotionally. When you've been beaten down and people are murdering your children and raping your wives, and this has taken place, over thousands and thousands of years, there's going to be a certain natural antipathy towards those other groups, and therefore I don't want to cast blame on people that sometimes may have a certain amount of prejudice. I don't think that is the ultimate idea that the Torah, that Judaism and the Talmud wants us to have, but it is understandable.
Okay. There's a few others that say you don't have to film me. I feel nervous. Okay, so it says here, it called Akum are Jews, non-Jews, sorry. What did you call it?
So Akum is an abbreviation. Akum is Oved Kochavim Umazalot.
Yeah.
A worshipper of stars and planets. So really, it does not refer to a non-Jew as much as it means a pagan.
Okay. It says something here in Elegit, Rashi. They are like dogs. And you should honor the dog more than the Akum.
Well, okay, so again, to a large degree, this will be similar to what I told you. We are referring to pagans, not necessarily non-Jews.
Okay.
And keep in mind, too, you have to remember that in ancient cultures, pagans often murdered with impunity. They would leave children out to die. Their morality was very, very lax. In ancient Greece and Rome, religion was not perceived as having a connection to morality. In fact, the Greek gods themselves were highly immoral characters. So again, I think it's much more of a reflection of the cultural degradation of that society. It's more of a condemnation of the culture and belief system more than it is a personal attack.
Okay. Another quote, Yalkut Rubeni Agadol, the souls of non-Jews come from impure spirits and are called pigs.
Well, again, Yalkut Ruveni is a bit of a controversial text. It is not the Talmud,
Okay.
and it is not of the same stature as even the more accepted midrashim. Yalkut Ruveni is a bit of a text whose authority is not as definitive, and therefore I would not look at it necessarily as an authoritative statement.
Okay.
But again, the notion of impurity is a very complicated notion, and ultimately we're dealing with mystical, non-rational concepts. I have to say honestly that there is certainly a belief in Judaism that the soul of the Jew comes from a higher level of holiness. Now that is not to denigrate others, it's simply to say, the example I give a homey example. The Jew might have a 16-gallon gas tank, and the non-Jew might have an 11-gallon gas tank. But the non-Jew might have 11 gallons of gas in the tank, and the Jew might have 0. So there is the higher, perhaps spiritual potential. But any given non-Jew might be much more saintly and much more righteous than another Jew, because one is dealing with potential and one is dealing with actualization of potential. And Mother Teresa might very well be much more righteous than the vast majority of Jews.
Sorry, I have a few more.
Yep.
To eat with a goy is the same as eating with a dog. Tosafot, Yabimot.
Yes, well, you've gotten all the difficult quotes.
Yeah.
These are all controversial. But again, you have to understand that our sages were warning us against association with immoral and degenerate people. Now, at the time of the sages, they lived really primarily in pagan cultures. I mean, Islam, this is pre-Islam, there was no Islam at all, and Christianity was at its very beginning. So basically, the standard non-Jew was a pagan. Pagans in those days were immoral. They did murder, they did rape, they did pillage. And essentially, our sages are kind of using, perhaps you might call hyperbolic language, to basically say, stay away from bad people. I might say, for example, don't go out to dinner with this drug addict. It's like worse than being with your dog, because the dog will be nice to you and the drug addict might kill you to get drug money. So I think that's a similar type of warning. Don't be with people who are pernicious, negative, destructive moral influences. And that's actually a true statement.
Okay. Sorry, 2 more. It is permitted to take the life of a goy. Sefer Ikarim.
Well, I'm going to have to look that up. I'm going to question that directly, because I will cite Maimonides, who is really one of the great definitive codifiers of Jewish law, who absolutely states explicitly it is prohibited under the law of the Torah to take the life of a guy. So that statement is simply halakha.
Have you actually heard it? I don't know if it's true. I have no idea.
Let me say, Sefer Ikarim is a prominent philosophical text. It is not a halachic authority, and under the law of the Talmud, as codified in Maimonides and the Shulchan Aruch, it is absolutely prohibited. So that is simply not a true statement in normative Judaism. Okay,
and it's okay to cheat goyim.
No, it is not. It is not okay to cheat.
I have no source for it.
The Talmud says in Tractate Chulin that it is forbidden to deceive even the non-Jew, whether the Jew or the non-Jew. So again, some of these statements are not true. Now, again, this is a vast topic, and there are going to be some subtleties and some ins and outs that we don't have time to pursue. But as a general statement, the phrase of the Talmud is Asur lignov dat habriot afilu oved kochavim. It is forbidden to deceive another person, even if that person is an idol worshiper. Even the idol worshiper that we said so many negative things about, I'm not allowed to cheat or deceive them.